This is not just a title, it's not just a sentence on a page, it's a declaration, a call to arms, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface of your soul. This is the anthem of every unseen, unheard, and underestimated force. The silence they despise will not be your weakness, it will be your greatest weapon. They've grown comfortable in their noise, haven't they? The relentless clamor of their judgments, the ceaseless echoes of their doubts, the deafening roar of their control. They thrive on chaos, feeding on the cacophony of your uncertainty. But they have forgotten the power of stillness, the gravity of a moment held in restraint. They have mistaken your quiet for surrender, your stillness for submission, and in their hubris, they've failed to see what's coming. Listen closely. This silence, your silence, is not an absence, it is presence. It is every word you chose not to say, every tear you refused to let fall, every scream you held back until the moment was right. It is the calm before the reckoning, the inhale before the roar. And it is this silence, your silence, that will dismantle their illusions, brick by brick, lie by lie. All you have to do is wait. 1 second later, one brick by physical illusions, brick by brick, lie by lie. This is not a story about giving up. This is not a tale of quiet desperation. No, this is about the storm that brews in the stillness. It is about the transformation that happens in the shadows, where they cannot see, where they cannot reach. The silence they despise is the silence they should fear, because it is not an ending, it is a beginning. Imagine it, their sneers faltering, their confidence cracking. They will search for the fight they think they've won, but they will find nothing. Nothing but the weight of your quiet resistance. And in that moment, they will realize they were never in control. You were, always. Take it. You've been silent, yes, but not out of weakness, not out of fear. Your silence has been a choice, a strategy, a way to strip away the noise and see the truth. And now, the time has come to let that silence speak, to let it echo so loudly that it shakes their foundations, crumbles their illusions, and leaves nothing of their power intact. Halen raises his voice and cries, "Hey, Halen, brought you back. Get your crap together." Because the silence they despise will be the silence that destroys them. And when the dust settles, when the noise is gone, only you will remain, unbroken, unstoppable, and finally, undeniably free. Listen to me. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. This is your moment, the one that will define whether you rise or remain shackled. The silence they despise isn't just a concept. It's your voice buried under the rubble of their noise. And right now, at this very moment, you have a choice. Will you let their noise drown you, or will you let your silence become a force they cannot withstand? Pause. Wait for the next word. Wait. And wait until you read the message upon their faces. They thought they'd broken you, didn't they? They thought the world would never hear from you again. They thought you'd been crushed beneath the weight of their opinions, their expectations, their judgments. And maybe you almost believed it too. Maybe you've spent years wondering if they were right, that this world doesn't belong to you, that your voice doesn't belong to you, that your silence is nothing but emptiness. But it turns out the world does. That those voice doesn't belong to you, that your voice doesn't belong to you. But let me tell you something. It's not. Your silence is not empty. It's not void. It is full of power, more than they could ever imagine, more than you even realize. Feel it. That quiet force simmering just beneath your surface. It's been waiting, waiting for you to wake up, to see it for what it is, a weapon, a storm, a reckoning. They've underestimated you for far too long. They've mistaken your patience for weakness, your quiet for submission, your waiting for giving up. But here's the truth they've ignored. You were never gone. You were never defeated. You were preparing, and now you stand on the edge of a decision. Do you stay silent, letting them believe they've won? Or do you let your silence rise, let it speak, let it destroy everything they thought they knew about you? This is the urgency of now. This moment, right here, is your battlefield. Not the past, where their words cut deep and left scars. Not the future, where you hope for better days. Now, the present. This is where it happens. This is where the tides begin to turn. And make no mistake, they will turn. But only if you decide. Only if you step out of the shadows of doubt, of fear, of pain, and take control. It's recovery that leads to thriving once again. When you've completed what you love to do, love to be part of, and take control, you might be thinking, why now? Why not wait? Why not stay quiet just a little longer? because waiting has a cost. Every second you delay, they grow stronger. Every moment you hesitate, their chains grow tighter. You've given them enough of your time, enough of your energy, enough of your life. It's time to take it back. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. This is your time. And don't think for a second that you're alone in this. Your journey is your own, yes, but you are not the first to walk this path. Countless others have stood where you stand. Their silence is dismissed, their power denied, and one by one they've risen. Not with shouts, not with chaos, but with the kind of quiet resolve that shakes mountains, splits seas, and changes the very fabric of existence. You are not alone. In the future, life can be difficult, complicated, terrifying, but will you be able to land on the branches of some smooth green term peak of truth? You are part of something bigger, a silent revolution that no one saw coming. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture it. Picture the person they think you are, the one they've labeled, dismissed, ridiculed. Now strip it away. Let it fall like ashes to the ground. That person is not you. That person was never you. You are more than their judgments, more than their expectations, more than their noise. You are the silence they despise, and that silence is more powerful than anything they could ever understand. Its silence is more powerful than anything they could ever understand. This journey won't be easy, I won't lie to you. There will be moments where you want to give up, where their noise feels overwhelming, where the weight of your silence feels unbearable. But those moments are where your power lies, because every time you feel that weight, every time you hear that noise, you'll know one thing. They're afraid of what you'll become, afraid of what your silence will do, afraid of the reckoning that is coming, and they should be. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning. The page has been blank for far too long, but now it's time to write, to carve your story into the fabric of their noise, to reclaim the power they tried to steal from you. It starts here. It starts now. So tell me, what will you choose? Will you let their noise win, or will you let your silence speak? You've been carrying this weight for so long, haven't you? The kind of weight that doesn't just sit on your shoulders. It seeps into your bones, your thoughts, your very essence. They underestimated you. Oh, how they underestimated you. They saw the quiet and mistook it for weakness, as if stillness is the absence of power. They saw your silence and assumed it meant surrender, as if withholding words was the same as withholding strength, as if withholding words was the same as withholding strength. But they don't know. They don't understand the storms that brew within you. They don't see the battles you've fought in the shadows, the wars you've waged against yourself in the dead of night. Because let's be honest, sometimes the loudest voices weren't theirs, they were your own. The ones whispering that you weren't enough, that you couldn't fight back, that you didn't deserve more. The ones where battles all your parents fought, and still catch you by surprise. Me. And it didn't help that they seemed to confirm those doubts at every turn. Every sneer, every dismissal, every word they weaponized against you, it left marks, didn't it? Not the kind you can show to anyone. Not the kind that heal with time. No. These marks burrowed deep, shaping how you saw yourself, how you walked through the world. They told you that your silence was proof of your insignificance, and for a while, maybe you believed them. And let's name the villains, shall we? Let's call them out for what they are. They are the people who told you to stay in your place, to keep your head down, to not dare to be more than what they allowed. They are the systems that silenced your voice before you even learned to speak, the ones that taught you to question your worth, to measure your value by their standards. And yes, they are also the fears that have taken root inside you. The fear of failure, of rejection, of standing up only to be pushed down again. They built a cage around you, didn't they? Not a physical one, but a cage all the same, made of expectations, judgments, and the lies they told you about yourself. And here's the cruelest part. They handed you the key and made you believe it didn't exist. They made you think that this was it, that this was all there was for you, that silence was all you'd ever have. You've carried this cage with you everywhere, to work, to school, to the dinner table. You've carried it in your relationships, in your dreams, in the moments where you dared to hope for something more. And every time you tried to step outside of it, there was a voice, a person, a thought, a memory that dragged you back, whispering that you don't belong out there, whispering that you should stay where it's safe, where it's predictable, where they can control you. But let me tell you something, you are not the cage they built. You are not the lies they told you. You are not the fears that haunt you, or the doubts that echo in your mind. You are something they can't even begin to comprehend. You are the silence they despise, because your silence holds more power than their noise ever could. Think about it. Why do they despise your silence so much? Why do they go to such lengths to break it, to fill it with their own words, their own judgments? It's because they know, deep down, they know that your silence is a threat, that it's not emptiness but potential, that it's not weakness but restraint. They know that the moment you recognize this, the moment you see your silence for what it truly is, they lose. And they're right to be afraid, because your silence has been holding all the things they tried to take from you. Your strength, your resilience, your power. It's been waiting, quietly, patiently, for the moment when you're ready to unleash it. And that moment is coming. I know it is, because you wouldn't still be here if it wasn't. You wouldn't still be listening, still fighting, still hoping, if you didn't know, deep down, that this isn't the end. You are not alone in this. Every person who has ever been silenced, every person who has ever been underestimated, every person who has ever been told they weren't enough, they stand with you. You carry their strength just as they carry yours. And together, you are more than the noise, more than the doubts, more than the fears. So feel this moment. Feel the weight of everything you've been through. Feel the pain, the struggles, the exhaustion. Acknowledge it, honor it, because it's real and it matters. But then, look deeper. Look beneath the scars, the doubts, the fear. What do you see? I'll tell you what I see. I see power. I see resilience. I see a silence that isn't empty, but full of everything they tried to take from you and everything you're about to reclaim. Smallville is the only place in the world you're supposed to be because people never ran away from you, but it's where they underestimated you. But that's their mistake, not yours, because you've been waiting for this moment. And now, it's here. You've been here before, haven't you? This place that feels more like a void than a moment, a place where everything you've endured weighs heavy on your chest, where every breath feels like a battle. It's not just sadness, it's suffocating. It's the kind of despair that wraps itself around you and whispers, "This is all there is." I see. I set my jaw. You've tried to fight it, God knows you've tried. But there are days, aren't there, where the fight feels pointless, where it feels like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, the world has already decided who you are, what you're worth, and where you belong. And every time you try to break free, every time you reach for something more, it feels like the world pushes back harder. They told you to stay quiet, didn't they? To stay in your place, to accept things as they are. And the worst part is, sometimes it felt easier to listen, to stay still, to stay silent. Because the alternative was terrifying. To fight, to speak, to push back, that takes courage. And courage doesn't come easy when you're already carrying the weight of so much pain. But let me ask you something. If you stay still, if you stay quiet, what happens? Who wins? Because it won't be you. If you let this silence become your prison instead of your power, then they win. The ones who doubted you, the ones who underestimated you, the ones who built the cage around you and made you believe you belonged inside it. They win. And I know you, deep down, I know you. You can't let that happen. Not after everything you've been through, not after everything you've survived. Let's talk about the tightrope you've been walking. You know the one that stretches out over a chasm so deep, so dark, you can't even see the bottom. Every step you take feels uncertain, like the ground might give way at any moment. You're afraid to look down, afraid to leap, afraid to even breathe too loudly in case it all comes crashing down. And yet, you've kept walking, step by step, inch by inch. Even when your legs trembled, even when the wind threatened to knock you off balance, even when it felt like you were walking toward nothing at all. But here's the thing about tightropes. They're not meant to be walked forever. They're meant to lead somewhere. And you've been walking towards something far greater than the despair that tries to hold you back. You just don't see it yet. And that's okay. Because sometimes the most powerful transformations happen when you can't see the destination, only the next step. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible. You've been holding so much for so long. Grief, pain, anger, fear. And it's tempting to think that letting go, stepping off that tightrope, would mean falling into the abyss. But what if I told you that the leap you're so afraid of isn't a fall? What if I told you it's a flight? What if I told you that the silence they despise, the silence you've carried, isn't holding you back, it's preparing you? Think about it. Why would they work so hard to keep you quiet? Why would they spend so much energy trying to convince you that your voice doesn't matter, that your power isn't real? It's because they know what you don't yet fully believe. that your silence is their greatest threat, that the moment you stop walking the tightrope and take that leap, everything they've built to keep you down will crumble. Anytime you start fighting the battle, anytime you lose, whether it be your mind or your body, and you're dealing with more than just your spirit in your body, well, I won't lie to you. This moment, this low point, it's going to test you in ways you didn't think you could handle. It's going to make you question everything, your worth, your strength, your future. But here's what you need to remember. This is not the end. This is the breaking point before the breakthrough, the storm before the calm, the silence before the roar. Close your eyes and feel it. The despair, the hopelessness, the fear. They're real and they're valid. But beneath them, there's something else, something stronger. It's the part of you that kept walking when you wanted to give up, the part of you that refused to let go, even when everything in you screamed to stop. That part of you is still there. It's quiet, yes, but it's there, and it's waiting for you to trust it. You've been enduring their noise for so long, their judgments, their doubts, their control. It's all been designed to keep you small, to keep you silent. But here's what they don't understand. The silence they despise, the silence they fear, is the silence that will destroy them. Because your silence isn't emptiness, it's power. It's the pause before the strike, the inhale before the exhale, the calm before the storm. Let me tell you this, storms don't apologize for their strength. They don't ask permission to rage, to tear down, to transform. Neither should you. You've held back long enough. You've stayed still long enough. The silence they despise isn't just your burden, it's your weapon, and the time to use it is coming. So feel this low point. Let it wash over you. But don't stay here. Don't let it define you. Because the leap you're afraid to take is the one that will set you free. And when you leap, when you let your silence rise, they won't know what hit them. Your silence was never surrender. It was never the absence of courage or the loss of power. It was a choice, a strategy, a moment of gathering strength while they mistook your stillness for defeat. They didn't see it, but while they built their walls and sang their victory songs, you were preparing, not to defend yourself, but to rise, to transcend, to shatter every illusion they held about you. Let's shift the perspective. Look at yourself. Not as they see you, not even as you've been seeing yourself, but as you truly are. Your silence is not an empty void. It is the storm gathering on the horizon. And storms, as you know, don't destroy without purpose. They come to clear paths, to shake foundations, to make space for something new, something stronger, something unstoppable. I was once one of them. I was always part of the conversation, if you asked the right questions, and even then probably. Think about it. Every time they dismissed you, every time they silenced you, they weren't extinguishing your fire, they were fueling it. Every word they spoke against you, every sneer, every dismissal was another log on the pyre. They thought they were burying you, but they were planting a seed, and now that seed is ready to break through the soil. Let me tell you this, you were never fragile. Never. They wanted you to believe that because it made you easier to control, easier to dismiss. But you were biding your time. You were learning, growing, becoming. And now you stand on the precipice of transformation, not because someone handed it to you, not because you were waiting to be saved, but because you chose to endure, because you chose to survive. And survival, that's the foundation of power. Take a moment to breathe. Feel that power within you. It's always been there, hasn't it? That quiet voice that whispered to you when everything seemed lost, the one that said, "Keep going. Don't stop." That wasn't someone else, that was you. Your resilience, your strength, your defiance. And now it's time to let that voice be heard, not as a whisper, but as a roar. What they fear most isn't your silence, it's the moment your silence becomes action. They've always known it was coming. That's why they've worked so hard to keep you quiet. They've known that your power isn't in shouting over them, but in the quiet resolve that comes from knowing who you are and what you're capable of. And now, it's time to show them. Oh, hang on. Picture it. The cracks forming in their carefully constructed walls. They thought they had built something unbreakable, something that could withstand you, but they underestimated what silence can do. Silence has a way of finding the weak spots, of seeping into the spaces they thought were secure, of breaking apart even the strongest facade. Your silence, your strategy, is their undoing. You've been carrying scars, haven't you? Scars they left behind with their words, their actions, their attempts to diminish you. But those scars aren't signs of weakness. They're proof that you survived. They're the armor you forged from your pain. And now, those same scars will become the source of your strength. Because the truth is, you're not the same person you were when they tried to break you. You're stronger, wiser, fiercer. Let's talk about transformation. You've seen the caterpillar turn into the butterfly, the storm transform the landscape, the fire reshape the forest. Nature shows us again and again that destruction is not the end, it's the beginning. And you're on the verge of your own transformation. The silence they despised is about to become the force they fear most. Involuntary computations and rises up before us. He planted his feet wider. Here's what I want you to remember. You don't need to match their noise. You don't need to fight them on their terms. You are not here to prove yourself to them. You are here to reclaim what was always yours. Your voice, your power, your story. And when you do, it won't be because you shouted louder or fought harder. It will be because you moved with purpose, with clarity, with an unstoppable resolve. They've spent so much time trying to convince you that you're powerless. But think about this. If you were truly powerless, why would they need to work so hard to keep you down? Why would they fear your silence if it didn't hold something they couldn't control? The truth is, their fear is the clearest sign of your power. And now, it's time to embrace it. The ascent begins here. This is the moment where you shift from survival to strength, from endurance to action. It won't be easy. There will still be challenges, still be moments of doubt, but you've faced the worst of it already, and you're still here. That alone is proof that you're capable of more than you've ever imagined. So rise, step out of the shadows. Let your silence speak in ways their noise never could. Not with words, but with actions. With the undeniable truth of who you are and what you're here to do. Because the silence they despise is not just your past, it's your power. And it's the key to your future. They wanted you to stay still, to stay quiet, to stay small. But that's not who you are. You were never meant to stay in the cage they built for you. You were meant to break it, to rise above it, to become the force they never saw coming. Aha, this is your moment, your transformation. Your time to let the silence they despise become the silence that reclaims, rebuilds, and redefines. It starts here, it starts now, and it starts with you. You've walked through the fire, you've stood in the storm, and now, here you are, at the edge of the truth they've tried to keep from you. This is the moment of transformation. This is where you see, with unflinching clarity, what they never wanted you to realize. You are not their victim. You are their reckoning. Let those words settle into your soul. Let them echo in the places where doubt once lived. You've carried the weight of their judgments for so long that it felt like they were right, but they weren't. Every lie they told, every dismissal they hurled, every cage they built around you, it wasn't proof of their strength, it was proof of their fear. Because they knew, even when you didn't, that you were never the victim of their story. You were the force waiting to rewrite it. Look at yourself, not through their eyes, not through the lens of their expectations, but through your own. You've been carrying scars, yes, but scars are not symbols of defeat. They are evidence of survival. They thought those scars would mark the end of you. They thought you'd break under the pressure, that you'd collapse under the weight of it all. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't understand, is that you weren't breaking. You were building, piece by piece, step by step, moment by moment. They thought you'd cower, that you'd shrink back, make yourself smaller, disappear into the shadows of your own silence. But what they didn't realize is that your silence was never an ending. It was a beginning, a choice, a weapon sharper than their swords, the calm before their ruin. And now, here you stand, ready to wield it. Feel this moment. The power in your chest, the fire in your veins, the clarity in your mind. This is the turning point, the place where everything shifts. Not because someone came to save you, but because you saved yourself. Because you decided, in the face of their noise, their doubts, their control, that you would not stay down, that you would rise, that you would reclaim what was always yours, after reckon with the reality they tried so hard to deny, that you were never theirs to control. Repeat these words to yourself. I am not their victim. I am their reckoning. Say it again, and again, let it sink in. Let it become the truth you carry forward. Because it's not just a statement, it's a declaration, a line drawn in the sand, a promise to yourself that you will no longer be defined by their noise, their judgments, their doubts. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out, but they didn't see the resilience beneath the surface. They didn't hear the power in your silence. They didn't understand that every moment you stayed quiet, you were preparing. And now, as you stand here, as you let your silence rise, they won't know what hit them. This is your turning point. The moment where everything changes. The moment where you stop surviving and start thriving. The moment where you see with unshakable clarity that the silence they despised is the silence that destroys them. And from this moment forward, you are no longer who you were. You are something more, something stronger, something unstoppable. So take this moment, own it, let it define you, not as their victim, but as their reckoning. Because the truth is, they never stood a chance. And now, it's time to show them why. Do it through. This is it. The moment where everything you've endured, everything you've learned, and everything you've become transforms into action. The silence they despised, the silence they feared, will now become the silence that dismantles their lies, their control, their illusions. But this transformation doesn't end here. It begins now, with you. So let's get started with everything you're struggling with just the same, so this can all be over. Take a deep breath and step into the truth you've uncovered. You've spent so long carrying the weight of their judgments, their words, their attempts to confine you. But now you know that weight wasn't yours to carry. It was a distraction, a smokescreen to keep you from seeing your power. And now, you're no longer blinded. Now you move forward with clarity. Let's talk about what happens next, because this isn't an ending. It's the beginning of your reckoning. It's the start of a journey that will require self-reflection, courage, and relentless action. Not for them, not to prove anything to the people who doubted you, but for you, for the person you're becoming, for the life you deserve. Step 1, self-reflection. The first step forward is inward. Look at yourself, not as the world has defined you, but as you truly are. Take time to examine the beliefs you've carried, the narratives you've accepted, the lies you've mistaken for truth. Ask yourself, which of these serve me? Which of these do I need to let go? You can't build a new foundation on the rubble of someone else's expectations. It's time to clear the ground and start fresh. Step 2, courage. Next comes courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Fear will be there. It always is when you're stepping into something new, something powerful. But courage isn't about eliminating fear. It's about holding it in one hand and your purpose in the other, and moving forward anyway. Every step you take, no matter how small, is an act of defiance against the voices that told you to stay down. Step 3, action. And then, action. Bold, relentless, unapologetic action. This isn't about shouting over the noise or trying to outmatch their chaos. This is about moving with purpose, about letting your silence speak louder than their words, about building something so undeniable, so unshakable, that no amount of noise can tear it down. Maybe it's a decision you've been avoiding, a dream you've been putting off, a boundary you've been afraid to set. Whatever it is, take the first step today, right now, because the longer you wait, the more their noise gains ground. Understand this, there will be setbacks. There will be moments where doubt creeps back in, where the noise feels overwhelming, where the scars feel too heavy to bear. But remember what you've learned. Remember who you are. The journey doesn't end with a single victory. It's a continual process of reclaiming, rebuilding, and rising. And with every step forward, you'll become stronger, more confident, more unstoppable. As you move forward, carry this truth with you. You are not their prisoner. You are their reckoning. Say it out loud, whisper it to yourself in the quiet moments. Let it become your mantra, your guiding star. Because every time you say it, you're not just reminding yourself of who you are, you're reclaiming the power they tried to take from you. This is your life, your voice, your story, and you will no longer live it on their terms. The silence they despise has become the silence that destroys their control, their lies, their illusions. And now, you rise, not as the person they tried to define, but as the force they never saw coming. Take this moment, feel its weight, its significance, and then take a step forward, and another, and another. Let your silence move through the world like a quiet storm, reshaping everything it touches. Let it speak volumes in its stillness. Let it become the foundation of the life you're building. And when they look back, when they see what you've become, they'll know this wasn't their story. It was yours, and it always has been.